Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive with
Yeah,
us.
to be here.
Today we're going to be looking at something that's causing a real stir in the automotive world.
Um,
Jaguar Land Rover's EV ambitions in India seem to have hit a bit of a snag.
yeah, it's a really interesting situation, especially when you consider just how fast the Indian car market is growing.
It's huge.
And the global push towards electric vehicles is only getting stronger. You'd think a brand like JLR, with their reputation for luxury and innovation, would be right at the forefront.
Exactly. So what's going on? Why are they hitting the brakes on this?
Well, it looks like they've decided to scrap their plans to manufacture EVs at that new Tata Motors facility in Tamil Nadu. That's $1 billion factory built specifically for electric vehicles.
Wow, that's a big change of plans. Why the sudden shift?
Well, the word on the street is that sourcing those high-quality EV components locally and at a competitive cost has been way harder than they expected. Think about it. Batteries, electric motors, the complex electronics involved. It's not like making regular car
Right,
parts.
it's a whole different ballgame.
Exactly. And to make matters even more complicated, a source close to the situation told us that all work on JLR electric vehicles has stopped in India.
Oh, wow.
It sounds like they just couldn't get that supply chain for specialized parts running smoothly and cost effectively enough, so they had to rethink things.
That's a tough break for anyone who was excited to see electric Jags and Land Rovers on the roads in India.
Mm.
But this must have huge implications for Tata Motors, too. They were going to share that factory with JLR, weren't they?
Yep, and it really throws a wrench in their plans. Tata's electric car division, Tata Passenger Electric Mobility, was counting on JLR's expertise and resources for their premium Avinya EV lineup. They were looking at sharing platforms, components, even the whole manufacturing setup.
So they were really hoping to leverage that JLR magic to boost their own EV game.
Exactly. And now they're stuck. They've got to redesign those platforms, find new suppliers for all those key components. It's going to be expensive and it'll take time.
That's got to be a huge blow, not just for Tata, but for all the suppliers who are getting ready for JLR's EV production, too. It's like planning a huge party, and then the main act cancels at the last minute.
It really is a good analogy. And this whole situation highlights how complex the global EV market is right now. We're seeing a resurgence of hybrid vehicles, governments are tweaking emission targets, and all this uncertainty just adds to the pressure on companies who've invested heavily in EVs.
So while JLR figures out its next move, how does all this impact the current EV landscape in India?
Well, Tata's currently leading India's EV market, but it's still a relatively small market, and it's facing more and more competition from companies like MG Motor and Mahindra.
Oh, right. I've heard of them.
They're offering some pretty appealing EVs with attractive features and longer ranges, putting the pressure on Tata to stay ahead of the game.
And then there's the big one, Tesla. We keep hearing rumors about them possibly entering the Indian market.
Ah, yes, Tesla. Their arrival would be a real game changer. It could completely shake up the EV scene in India. They have a reputation for pushing boundaries and redefining what people expect from an electric car.
It's like a high-stakes poker game, and everyone's trying to get the best hand. But what about Tata's own EV, the Avinya? How's all this affecting that?
Well, the Avinya was originally supposed to launch this year, but it's faced delay after delay, pushing it further and further back. It's not clear how much of that is directly because of JLR's decision, but it definitely adds another layer of complexity to Tata's EV plans.
So Tata's got these delays with the Avinya, more competition coming from other companies, and now the possibility of Tesla coming in. It doesn't sound like it's smooth sailing in the Indian EV market.
Yeah, you could say that. It's a really dynamic market, changing all the time, full of surprises. This whole situation with JLR and Tata shows just how important it is to get EV production right, especially in a market like India. It's not just about building cars, it's about creating a whole ecosystem for electric mobility.
Right? You need the right infrastructure, the supply chains, the skilled workers, and the right regulations. It's complicated.
Exactly. And that's what makes it tricky, especially in a place like India where the EV infrastructure is still being built up. Getting those top-notch components locally and at a price that makes sense, that's a real hurdle.
It's like trying to build a skyscraper with a weak foundation.
Uh,
You might have an amazing design, but the whole thing could collapse without the proper support.
that's a perfect way to put it. And for Tata Motors, this is a huge challenge. They were really relying on JLR's know-how and resources to help them navigate all of this. Now they're on their own, and that means finding new suppliers, investing in local manufacturing, maybe even looking at different technologies.
It's a real test for them.
Yeah.
But let's not forget, Tata's a big player in the Indian car industry. They've
Mm.
been around for ages, and they've dealt with a lot of challenges.
That's true. They really understand the Indian market. They have a strong brand, and people trust them. Those are big advantages.
So even though this thing with JLR is a setback, it doesn't mean Tata's EV dreams are over. They're still in a good position.
Absolutely. The EV market is still pretty new, even globally. There's a lot of room to grow and innovate, and things change quickly.
It's kind of like the Wild West out there. Everyone's trying to stake their claim and figure out where they fit in. Speaking of which, let's talk about those other players in India. MG Motor and Mahindra. They seem to be making some big moves.
Yeah, they are. MG Motors ZS EV has been doing really well. People like its design and its price is competitive. And Mahindra, known for its tough SUVs, is also getting into EVs. They have models like the Averto, and the EKUV 100 is coming out soon.
And they're not just going after the luxury market. They're making EVs for different budgets so more people can afford them.
Right. They understand that price is a big deal, especially in India, and they're using their existing manufacturing and distribution networks to get ahead.
So it's a smart strategy, good products, competitive prices, and the right partnerships. But we can't forget about Tesla.
True Tesla coming to India is the wild card. It could really shake things up. They've got cutting-edge technology, a global brand, and a huge fan base.
Imagine if they actually launch in India. It would be a huge deal. Everyone would be talking about it. But how would they approach the Indian market, I wonder?
That's the big question. Would they go after the high-end market with their expensive models like the Model S and Model X? Or would they try to disrupt things by offering something more affordable like the Model 3? Maybe even a model designed just for India.
And how would they handle all the challenges in India? The infrastructure problems, the regulations, the different things that Indian consumers want. It'll be interesting to see how they adapt.
For sure. Their entry would not only make the competition tougher, but it could also speed up the development of the whole EV ecosystem in India. They might push other companies to improve forced changes in charging infrastructure, even influence government policies.
It's like they could be a catalyst, making things happen faster.
Exactly. And this brings us to a really important point. This isn't just about cars. It's about a much bigger change happening in the car industry. We're seeing a fundamental shift in how we think about getting around, driven by concerns about climate change, advances in technology, and what consumers are looking for.
It's a global phenomenon, but it's happening differently in different parts of the world. And India, with its massive population, growing economy, and unique challenges, is a really interesting example. It's like everyone's trying to figure out their next move and stay one step ahead.
Yeah, and the decisions being made right now are going to have a huge impact for years to come.
Absolutely. So let's bring this back to our listeners for a minute. Why should they care about all of this?
Yeah.
What's the key takeaway here?
I think JLR's decision to put their Indian EV plans on hold shows just how complicated it is to produce EVs, especially in these up-and-coming markets.
Yeah.
It's not as easy as just putting cars together. You need a whole ecosystem in place to make electric mobility work.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
We've talked about the infrastructure, the supply chains, the need for skilled workers, and all the regulations.
Right. It's a lot to juggle. And for companies like Tata Motors, this is a real make-or-break moment.
For sure.
Can they overcome these challenges? Can they stay on top with all this competition?
And what about Tesla? If they do decide to enter the Indian market, what's that going to mean? Will more people start adopting EVs? Or will it just shake things up even more?
Those are the million-dollar questions. And honestly, we don't have all the answers yet.
Right.
But that's what makes this so exciting. There's so much potential, so much uncertainty. It feels like anything could happen.
It really does feel like the future of mobility is being decided right now.
It is. And it's a story with a lot of twists and turns, new ideas, and of course, a good dose of competition.
Well, hopefully this deep dive has given our listeners a better understanding of just how complex and exciting the Indian EV market is.
I hope so. It's a market full of surprises, that's for sure.
Definitely full of surprises.
Yeah.
And who knows, maybe we'll check back in on this topic in a future deep dive and see what's changed.
Sounds good.
Thanks for joining us, everyone.